and welcome back with a new video. Guys, today we learn chapter number 16 of Principle of Marketing. The name of chapter number 16 is Markets and Buying Behavior. Let's start. What is a business market? The business market comprises all the organizations that buy goods and services for use in the production of other products and services that are sold, rented or supplied to others. It also includes retailing and wholesaling firms that acquire goods for the purposes of reselling or retaining, renting them to others at a profit. In the business buying process, business buyers determine which product and services that their organizations need to purchase and then find, evaluate, and choose among alternative suppliers and brands. Companies that sell to other business organizations must do their best to understand business market and business buyer behavior. Characteristics of business markets. In some ways, business markets are similar to consumer markets. Both involve people who assume buying roles and make purchasing decisions to satisfy needs. However, business market differs in many ways for consumer markets. The main difference are in the market structure and demand and the nature of the buying units and the types of decision and the decision process involved. Business markets also have their own characteristics in some ways. They are similar to consumer markets, but in other ways they are very different. The main difference include: number 1, market structure and demand. Business markets typically deal with for favored, but for larger buyers they are more graphically concentrated. Business market have drive demand. Many business market have inelastic demand, that is total demand for many business product is not affected much by price changing. Especially in the short run, a drop in the price of leather will not cause shoes manufacturers to buy much more leather unless it results in lower shoes prices. That is turn will increase consumer demand for shoes. Finally, business market have more fluctuating demands. The demand for many business goods and services tend to change more and more quickly than the demand for consumer goods and services does. A small percentage increase in consumer demand can cause large increase in the business demand. Sometimes a rise of only 10% in consumer demand can cause as much as 200% rise in business demand during the next period. Number 2, nature of the buying unit. Compared with consumer purchases, a business purchase usually involves more decision participant and a more professional purchasing effort. Often, business buying is done by trained purchasing agents who spend their working lives learning how to make better buying decisions. Buying committees made up of technical experts and top management are common in the buying of major goods. Companies are putting their best and brightest people on procurement patrol. Therefore, business marketers must have well-trained salespeople to deal with well-trained buyers. Number 3, types of decision and the decision process. Business buyers usually face more complex buying decisions than do consumer buyers. Purchases often involve large sums of money, complex technical and economical considerations, and interaction among many people at many levels of the buyer organizations. Because the purchases are more complex, business buyers may take longer to make their decisions. The business buying process tends to be more formalized than the consumer buying process. Large business purchases usually call for detailed product specifications, written purchase orders, carefully supply searches, and formal approval. The buying firm might even prepare policies manual that detail the purchases process. The models in figures suggest 4 questions. Business buyer behavior. The model in figures suggests for 4 questions about business buyer behavior. What buying decision do business buyer make? Who participate in the buying process? What are the major influences on buyer? How do business buyer make their different decisions? A model of business buyer behavior. At the most basic level, marketers want to know how business buyer will respond to various Marketing stimuli figures shows as model of the business buyer behavior. In this model, marketing and other stimuli affect the buying organizations and produce certain buyer responses. Continue. Within the organization, buying activity consists of two major parts. The buying center is made up of all the people involved in the buying decisions and the buying decision process. The model shows that the buying center and the buying decision process are influenced by internal, organizational, interpersonal, and individual factors as well as by external environmental factors. Major types of buying situations. There are three major types of buying situations. At one extreme is a strategic ribosi, which is fairly routine decision. At the other extreme is the new task, which may call from through research. In the middle is a modified review, which requires some research. In straight review, the buyer reviews something without any modifications. It is usually handled on a routine basis by the purchasing department. Based on past buying satisfaction, the buyer simply chooses from the various suppliers on its list. In suppliers try to maintain product and services quality. Participant in the business buying process. Users are members of the organization who will use the product or services. In many cases, the user initiated the buying proposal and helped define product specifications. Influencers often help define specifications and also provide information for evaluation, alternatives, technically personal or particularly important influences. Buyers have formal authority to select the supplier and arrange terms of purchases. Buyer may help shape product specification, but their major role is in selecting vendors and negotiations. In more complex purchases, buyer might include high-level officers participating in the negotiations. Decider have formal or informal power to select or approve the final supplier in routine buying. The buyers are often the decisions or at least the approves. Gatekeeper control the flow of information to others. For example, purchasing agents often have authority to prevent salespersons from seeing users or decision deciders. Other gatekeepers include technical person and even personal sacrifice. Major influences on business buyer. Environmental, organizational, interpreter, individuals, and buyer. Environmental factors. Business buyers are influenced heavily by factors in the current and expected economic environments, such as the level of primary demands, the economic outlook, and the cost of money. As economic uncertainty rises, business buyers cut back on new investment and attempt to reduce their inventories. Organizational factors. Each buying organization has its own objectives, policies, procedures, structures, and systems. The business marketers must know the organization's factors as thoroughly as possible. Questions such as these arise: how many people are involved in the buying decisions? Who are they? What are their evaluation criteria? What are the company's policies and limits on its buyer? Interpersonal factors. The buying center usually includes many participants who influence each other. The business marketers often find it difficult to determine what kind of interpersonal factors and group dynamics enter into the buying process. Participants may have influences in the buying decisions because they control reward and punishments, are well liked, have special expertise, or have a special relationships with other important participants. Interpersonal factors are often very suitable. Whenever possible, business marketers must try to understand these factors and design strategies that take them into account. Individual factors. Each participant in the business buying decision process brings in personal motive, perceptions, and preference. These individual factors are affected by personal characteristics such as age, income, education, professional identification, personality, and attitudes toward risk. Also, buyers have different buying styles. Some may be technical types who make in-depth analysis of competitive proposal before choosing a supply. Other buyers may be intuitive negotiator who are adept at pitting the sellers against on another for the best deal. D. The business buying process. There are 8 stages of the business buying process. Buyers who face a new task, buying situations, usually go through all stages of the buying process. Buyer makes modifies or strategy or state depots may skip some of the stages. Will examine these steps for the typically new task buying situations. Problem recognition. The buying process begins when someone in the company recognizes a problem or need that can be met by acquiring a specific product or services. Product recognitions can result for internal or external stimuli. Internally, the company may decide to launch a new product that requires new production equipment and materials. Or a machine may break down and new needs parts. Perhaps a purchasing manager is unhappy with the current supplier productivity, quality, services, or prices. Externally, the buyer may get some new ideas at a trade show, see an ad, or receive a call from a salesperson who offers a better product or a lower price. In fact, in their advertising, business marketers often alerts customer to potential problem and then show how their products provide solutions. General needs descriptions. Having recognized a need, the buyer next prepare a general needs description that describes the characteristics and quantity of the needed items. For standard items, this process presents few problems. For complex items, however, the buyer may have to work with other engineers, user consultants to define the items. The team may want to rank the importance of reliability, durability, price, and other attributes desired in the item. In these places, the alert business marketer can help the buyer define their needs and provide information about the value of the different product characteristics. Supplier search. The buyer new conducts a supplier search to find the best vendors. Today, more and more companies are turning to the internet to find supplier for marketer. This has leveled the playing field. Smaller suppliers have the same advantages as larger ones and can be listed in the same online catalogs for a nominal fee. Proposal solicitations. In the proposal solicitation stage of the business buying process, the buyer invites qualified suppliers to submit proposals. In response, some supplier will send only a catalog or a salesperson. However, when the item is complex or expensive, the buyer will usually require detailed written proposals or formal presentations for each potential supplier. Order routine specifications. The buyer, the buyer now prepares or order routine specification. It includes the final order with the chosen supplier or suppliers and list items such as technical specifications, quantity needed, expected time of delivery, return policies, and warranties. In the case of maintenance, repairs, and operating item. Institutional and government market. So far, our discussion of organization buying has focused large on the buying behavior of the business buyer. Much of these discussions also apply to the buying practice of institutional and government organizations. However, these two non-business markets have additional characteristics and needs. In this final section, we address the special features of institutional and government market. Government market. The government market offers large opportunity for many companies, both big and small. In most countries, government organizations are major buyers of goods and services. Government buying and business buying is similar in many ways, but there are also differences that must be understood by companies that wish to sell product and services to government. To succeed in the government market, seller must locate key decision markets makers, identify the factors that affect buyer behavior, and understand the buying decision process. Thank you so much.